So, hi everyone. It's Rebecca on with Dollars and Cents Education. Today it's Freedom. Well, it's technically Wednesday, but we're doing Freedom Fridays. We recorded it. This was a recorded version, so you're not going to be able to see it live today. But today I'm joined by Stacey Austin, and she has a great story of how she paid off her debt. That's just this past August, paid it all off. Um, Stacey's in practices in the Buffalo area, and the name of her practice is Stacey Austin Acupuncture. So thank you very much, Stacey, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So when did you graduate from Chinese medicine school?
I graduated in 2010 from Finger Lakes School of Acupuncture.
Okay. And how much debt did you pay off?
At the time, I graduated with 111,000,
Mhm.
but I kind of did the what is it, the income level repayment. So like I didn't pay much the first few years, and then I spent a few years just trying to catch up on the interest. But when I finally got serious about paying off my debt, I had about 104,000 total left between my student loans and a car loan I had at that time.
Okay. So it was a combination of
Yeah,
student
I
loans
think
and
I
car.
had about 97 in student loans when I first started, and a little over six, almost 7,000 left on my car.
Okay. And how long did it take to pay off that last chunk, that 104?
It took me 2 months to get the car gone, so I felt pretty good about that. And then it took me a little under 3 years to do the whole 104.
That's great. That's a good.
Yeah, I was super like motivated most of the time, I would say.
Awesome. Well, I mean, 3 years to pay off that amount of debt, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good. So, tell me about your story. What was your motivating factor, to that made you decide to just really push and pay off this debt as fast as possible?
Yeah, sure. I remember when I first graduated, I was sort of poking around the internet on ways to pay off your student loans. And I remember that I came across the Dave Ramsey plan on someone's blog, and I was reading about it. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, that sounds great and all, but there's just no way that that's going to happen. So fast forward a couple of years, I was driving out to the Adirondacks, and I was my first long trip. I was driving by myself. So I was like, well, what can I do? Maybe I'll just listen to an audiobook. So in the meantime, I had come across the Dave Ramsey plan, and I downloaded his audiobook and listened to it the whole ride out. And just from that day forward, I was just super motivated to pay off my debt. I just wanted my student loans gone, mostly so I could just have like my work-life balance be a little bit better. I just want to work when I want to work, and not because I feel like I have to work. Um, so I listened to the audiobook the whole entire way. I brought the actual book to read too, read that in like that week. And from that day forward, I was going. I was ready for it.
That- That's awesome. I love actually what you just said there at the very beginning. You kind of heard about it, but you didn't see yourself as someone, as someone that could do this
Oh
at the
yeah, because at
beginning.
that time it's like I just graduated. I was just starting my business. I was still bartending and waitressing to supplement my income, and I was still living at my parents' house. So I was like, "There's no way that this is gonna happen."
Yeah, it seemed impossible. And that's actually, I wanted to highlight that because that's actually something that I read a lot in the various forums within our profession, that it just seems like it's impossible. This is not realistic for them. We do this a lot with a lot of different things where we uh, tell ourselves that there's an objection that like we can't do this. This isn't for me.
Right.
So I love that you have that same story
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
that you push through. And actually, when you talked about your situation where you're kind of how to cover other streams of income and you were living with your parents, actually that probably would have been a perfect opportunity to really.
Right. No.
But we, like anything else, we do things when we're ready to do things, right?
Absolutely.
And also, I'll certainly agree with you. The podcast, the Dave Ramsey podcast while driving, that was for me as well. That was one thing that was really helpful to keep me like motivated to hear,
Yeah.
people debt-free screens.
I still listen to it to this day. Almost, I kid you not, from 2017, I don't think I've listened to the radio more than like 3 days. I literally just listen to podcasts, and most of them are from the Dave Ramsey channels.
It's true. Sometimes you just need that like kind of an uplifting story. And that's really what inspired these Freedom Fridays podcasts or interviews is, kind of take that same format. And because I know that for myself and for a lot of other people, they love to hear testimonials. They love to hear success stories because there's too much, especially now, a lot of negativity going on out
Right.
there. And again, it seems like these things are insurmountable and they want to hear people that have actually done it and then hear people within our profession, especially
That have,
um,
yeah, actually done it.
people that they can actually relate to. So, that's kind of the whole impetus behind doing this. But so now, obviously, you've mentioned Dave Ramsey, and it was kind of Dave Ramsey-ish. What what was the hardest part for you during this whole process?
I think it was saying no to things like trips and vacations. We travel at least once or twice a year, usually with some friends. And during this time, we still went on a couple of vacations, but we said no to a few too that we normally probably wouldn't have. So that was pretty tough. Um, Especially because at that point I didn't have my son. So I felt like I had all the freedom in the world to travel as much as I wanted, but I couldn't because I had these other goals that I really, really wanted to work through.
Exactly. I know it's sometimes you do have to say no to some things, but obviously, kind of with this whole process, you were kind of following a budget,
Yep.
and with that, there is room. If you know that you have something coming up, something you and your husband wanted to put together, like a little trip away or something, it allows you to budget for some fun stuff.
And that's pretty much what we did. Like, if we did do that one vacation that year, I put it in my budget and we each saved a little bit each month towards that. And so we were able to do a few things, but we definitely said no to, quite a lot of things.
Got it. All right. And what would you say? What behaviors or changes or anything like that? What would you attribute the most to your success in paying them
I
off?
definitely think just even having the budget was super helpful, even if I wasn't always 100% to sticking to it, because, it's so easy, especially now with your phones and buying things. Like, you can literally buy anything with like 3 clicks of a button. So for me, having the budget and just seeing how much I was spending in the different areas was pretty enlightening. And that really helped keep me on track. But then I've also kind of just adopted some of the theories of like minimalism. So like we don't own a lot of stuff in our house. Our house is pretty clutter free. We try not to just buy a lot of stuff, and I'd honestly wait. So if I really really wanted to buy something and I found myself like going to the website and putting it in my cart, I would just wait and I would say, okay, if in like 3 days from now I still really really want this thing, I'll buy it. But if I don't at that point, then I won't. And a lot of the times I'd find myself going back to it and being like, you know what? I don't really need this. I can just wait.
It's so funny. As I'm listening to you, I think we're like kindred spirits because I do the same exact thing. I've never been a very impulsive person to begin with. And so, yes, I do that, whether it was a strategy or not. I'll shop online, put it in the cart,
Yep.
just kind of balk on pulling the trigger and just let it sit there. And yeah, and then in a few days, um, I'll go back to it or just forget about it entirely.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. And then you might not think about it for like 6 months.
right. And then obviously that means that I really didn't need that thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So no, I love it. I've been also kind of slowly adopting more of that minimalism mindset and just and this is the thing finance, personal finance, staying organized, all of this, it really just kind of comes down to, two things. You either increase your income in terms of paying off debt,
Hmm.
increase your income or lower your expenses or both.
Hmm.
There's no magic button to any of this, even though we want to just like find ways to like hacks around that.
Oh yeah.
But but that's really, in the end, it's math. There's obviously some emotional components that are attached to money for a lot of people, of course. But in the end, when we pare all that down, it really just comes down to make more money or lower your expenses. That's
Hmm.
pretty much it.
Yep. And we've pretty much done both over the years.
Yeah. So,
I gave up Wegmans for Aldi's. Just small sacrifices.
well, did you give up Wegmans entirely?
Oh, entirely.
Oh, interesting.
I pretty
Okay.
much only grocery shopped at Aldi's for pretty much the last 3 years.
Good for you. I've just recently discovered Aldi, so it's an interesting store for sure,
Yeah.
and it's a good way if you are someone that really enjoys kind of challenges. And this is what's kind of fun about it. It's like it doesn't have everything. It's not organized like a regular
Or there's
grocery
only like
store.
one of each thing. So like
Right.
you can't be
Yeah.
too picky.
Right. And so you figure out ways to make it work. Right. And so
Mhm.
you have to think and get a little creative. And for me, I don't know if you're like this. I do find challenges like that kind of fun. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the most I can get out of this thing?
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. Um, so I guess, that, I mean, your story is pretty straightforward. And this is why I really wanted to interview you because, it wasn't any, I mean, what you did, what you accomplished was incredible and should be commended and congratulated. But it wasn't any kind of crazy tricks or
Yeah,
tip.
there's really nothing like fancy about my story, it's just literally I just worked and saved and we budgeted and I just still to this day, like now I'm kind of working on like the house and saving up for a garage and I want to pay the house off, before I'm 40. So like I'm still just kind of the same goal, like just work, save the money and pay it off.
That's awesome. That's great. And so yeah, it's doable. And that's the whole point of these interviews is to show people that it is doable. We can do
Oh
this.
yeah, absolutely.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stacey. At the end, is there anything that you kind of want to plug of like your clinic or if you have a product for sale or any kind of charity or anything like that that you feel strongly about that you want to kind of put out there and since you have a platform?
I don't think so. I mean, I just developed like a fertility course, but it's more for patients rather than acupuncturists.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I just did it on Thinkific, so it's just my name at stacyaustin.thinkific.com. But I mean, that's really what I've been doing over quarantine is just kind of trying to find ways to stay busy and maybe develop a new income stream without actually like having to leave my house.
I love it. Actually, tell me more about that. So it's
So
geared more towards patients.
Yep. I geared it towards my patients because like where my office actually is outside of Buffalo and there's not a lot of resources like there is in Buffalo around us. So I wanted something that patients could just use from like a holistic standpoint of like what can I do with diet and detox and what's some like at home things I can do for treatment for boosting my fertility and trying to conceive. So it's geared more towards any woman at any point of her journey of trying to conceive and just things that you can do at home or that you already have at your disposal. So I kind of laid it out as like a 90-day program, but there's 10 different modules and it goes through each different aspects of different topics. So I just wanted something that was super simple for people and something that was decently affordable because so many of the fertility courses I see online are just astronomically expensive sometimes. So I just wanted something that was accessible for more people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. And is it actually, have you launched it already or
I did. Yep. I launched it, I think shortly after we were able to return to work here. So I think right around June, I launched it.
cool and good response so far?
Yeah, I've sold a few, so I'm super excited. I need to be a little bit more diligent about marketing it now that I'm back in my office.
Right, right. No, I mean that's great. And it's also that's really smart because these are all things that you would probably you'd be telling your patients anyways.
Yeah, it's literally
And
everything I would tell my patients. So I was hoping that it could be used not only by my patients, but maybe people who don't live in an area where they can go to an acupuncturist or a fertility clinic, something that's close by.
sure, and it saves you a little time, so you don't have to repeat yourself over and over in clinic as
Mhm.
well. So that's
Yeah.
really smart. That's cool. Yeah, keep plugging away at that because that almost sounds like, if you can put it together as a product that perhaps then you can sell it to practitioners to use for their patients.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
There you
there's for
go.
sure potential.
That's awesome. Good. Awesome. Let us know more about that if it develops into more. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Stacey, for joining me today and for sharing your story. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, it was just August, so it's still sort of fresh. Oh, actually, last question. Is there anything different that now that you've paid off your debt, and is your life any different or feelings are a little
I
different
mean,
or
not really. I mean, I definitely feel a lot more peace and freedom. Like it's to the point now where I don't have to be so hardcore with paying off my house if I don't want to be. So like it's really nice to be able to just see the money that's coming in. I just get to keep it or, spend it how I want. But honestly, I really haven't changed too much. We have a few house projects we're saving for, so I've just been pretty intense still on saving for those.
great? So it sounds like, yeah, you mentioned this actually earlier where said now you work because you want to, not because you have to.
Yeah.
And this
Well,
leaves
and feel like with the pandemic, like, I can't really go on vacation right now. I can't spend a ton of money on those types of things at this moment in time. So it makes it a little bit easier to be a little bit more intentional still.
Sure, absolutely. I know. That's for sure. I mean, it's not the ideal situation, but yeah, that's kind of one thing that you can, uh, that good comes out of this, I suppose. And
Yeah.
no, that's great. And, when like you said, you feel a little bit more at peace, after, not having all this debt, like kind of
Mhm.
hovering over you. And that's a huge, and it offers you more options, whether it's in free time or intentionally doing other projects, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. Because I did put up a poll the other day. I'm not sure if you saw it, just asking, what's people, what is their why, um, you know, if they didn't have the financial troubles or concerns that they have now, what would they be doing now
Mhm.
that they aren't able to? So, and a lot of the biggest response, the biggest answer was free time, have more free time.
Mhm.
So and free time means more options. So,
Oh, absolutely.
so that's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stacey, for joining me today. And next Freedom Friday episode should be up. We have Thanksgiving up, so I don't think it's not until December. So we have a few weeks before the next one. But again, thank you so much for joining me and congratulations and
Thank
enjoy the
you.
rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye.